So we have all seen the if condition. If name equals name dot to, we saw something like this in the past. Name dot to uppercase equals bond. Then we sort of had a message for Mr. Bond. Um, um, right. Welcome 007. So we have had an if condition. Okay, everybody comfortable with the if condition? Now most of you would have experienced this, and believe it or not, every vehicle, a recent vehicle, has got thousands of lines of code written in embedded systems. If the door is open and the light is on, does the car beep? Anybody experienced a more recent car? Most of them, I think even up to 10 years old. If your lights are on and you open the driver's door, it beeps. That is an if condition. If door is open. So it might look something like this. And because everything is binary in the digital world, it will actually look something like if lights equal to on, and on and off is a switch. So internally it will actually be set like a variable. And so there will be one dip switch or some setting inside memory holding that, okay, that's on, and door open, again open and close 1 and 0 in the digital world, computer language. So this is what it's going to look like, and this program, it's not software, it's embedded on a chip. So you can go to Taiwan, give them a logic, and they'll actually give you a chip. And so if you even write a game, they can actually burn an entire game on a chip, put a display on it, and make some kind of a console. But this is what it looks like. If lights equal to 1 and door equal to 1, beep. Okay, whatever the function is to beep, we'll call a function to beep. At the surface level, it looks to be the case. Okay, at the surface level, this looks to be the case. But what is happening is this. As long as, because as long as the door is open, it's going to keep. Or it might have a timeout. So there are various ways. And if function works only once, but a condition keeps checking, oh, still open, beep, still open, beep. The new BMWs, when they came out with the moisture sensor for the automatic wipers. So as long as moisture is there on the sensor, keep wiping. And it keeps checking, is moisture there? Let me wipe. Is moisture there? Let me wipe. Is moisture there? Let me wipe. The moment moisture dries off, evaporates, stops. Okay, it knows the rain has stopped. That's how they start building intelligence into machines. And understanding logic is one thing, implementing program is totally another thing, because you've got to understand the syntax. So let us look at our first loop today. There are two things we are going to need if you want to improvise last week's assignment. And let's see if I have last week's Web 2. So Lachlan had a question last week, where are we going with the 3 number input? And you can see some kind of a repetition happening here. Okay, number 1 0, number 2 1, number 3 2, and the numbers you enter are this, and so on and so forth. And we have not even checked whether the numbers are a number yet. So there are two things we might want to do here. We might want to first have a loop that says while a number entered is not a number. So every time the user doesn't give a number, prompt again. This is not the actual JavaScript code, but that's what we are looking at, structure. And the other thing we are looking at is, can you see these repeated prompts? Okay, 0, 1, 2. We want to automate it. So let us look at the for loop. Try to understand this. This loop is a counted loop. it has a variable inside. It could be an incrementer, usually called I. It starts at a particular value. When we deal with arrays and XML, because arrays start at 0, we start at 0. But you can start anywhere, really. Let me start at 10. And then, remember I kept saying a loop keeps on checking the condition. Oh, there's still moisture in the sensor. Let me keep the wiper on. You have to keep checking for a condition. Okay, you start at 10 and let's say it's less than 100. Okay. We're starting at 10 and we are checking whether it's less than 100. And after every time the loop runs, we increment it. We can increment it by 1, or we can say I is equal to I plus 10. This is incrementing by 10. Okay? There's several ways of writing this statement. Some programmers prefer this. I plus equals 10. I'm just going to say I equals I plus 10. So do you understand that I has now gone up by 10? Same as I plus equals 10. Okay? And you're going to do something. Okay? Let's just write, first of all, let us just write I. Okay? We'll just write I. And we'll put a break after that. We'll just put a break so that it's in a different line. I'm just going to put a break tag. Questions about the code so far on the screen? Any line, any aspect of this code? We have a starting point and we have a condition that's being checked and we have an increment. Tell me, when I set I at 10, is it true that I will be less than 100?
If you put the break on the same line as the I.
Yes, you can. Absolutely can. Yes, you can. So, very, very important that you understand there is a starting point here. There is a point which is being checked and something is happening each time the loop runs. No questions? It's all good? Yes?
What happens when I equals 100? When it gets
The loop stops. That is when the loop stops. If it doesn't reach a point that it actually goes above 100, your loop will go on forever. And we don't do that. Try not to do it, but I'll show you that as well. Let us run this. Let us just save this. Let's run it. See this? Because I'm just outputting I. Okay, let's do a Bart Simpson. You know how Bart, he has to go on the board and write 500 times? Okay, let's do a Bart. Less than 500. And let's do I plus plus is an easy way of saying increment I by 1. And I minus minus will decrement it by 1. Okay? We'll just go plus plus. And you go document write I space and then go I will be a nice boy today. Let's see how this goes. I need to close this. Close this. And you can see that. Okay. Now let's say the teacher said, no, that's not good enough. Write it 1,000 times. Cool. There you go. 1,000 times, ma'am. Much better, boy. Oh, why did you go to 999? Less than. Very good. So I need to do either less than or equal to. That works. or I need to say less than 1001. Okay, same thing. But you can see the power of loops, something that can go endlessly. It can also start at a higher number and keep on going towards a lower number and keep on decreasing. And so it can start at a higher number, go to a lower number as well.
So when you type in the document on the right, I put in the number, if you get rid of the I, will it still be able to loop it?
Yeah.
Just
It will still loop it. Yeah. It won't put the number. Okay. So everything, the mechanism is here. And to answer Munruj's question, so Munruj had a question: what will happen when it goes down? Let me do the increment. It's better to explain that. So if I start 1, and I keep checking if it's less than 100. Okay, this was the first case. Is that correct? This was my first example. It going from 1 to 100. Make it less than or equal to. Okay, this was my first example. Going up, starting at 1, going up to 100. But because I'm incrementing after every loop, that's why it actually reaches 100. What if I decrement? Will it ever reach 100? And you can see what happened. Hopefully it will be kind on me and say, hey, there has been some problem, and
Isn't it that it's just continuously going negative?
yeah, but
That's why it's not stopping.
that's correct. But that's what a browser can actually do for you. It says, hey, I detected a problem. I'm going endlessly. Do you want me to stop this naughty script? So yeah, you can stop it. But not all browsers will.
Can you, for this code, allow to use, what is it, zero? Put zero count?
Yes, and we need to do that. We need to do that because we are going to be dealing with arrays which start at 0. And now, actually, let's look at this. Let me put this line. Okay, I'm just going to put this back. Make that 10. That's a for loop example. Okay. Inserting numbers in an array. Okay. So let's have a look at this. You had a question. Can we start with 0? Yes. Now, last week we started with an array and we started taking input into an array. Let's start again. We make an array and for I equals starting at 1, as long as, actually we just go 0 because array start at 0, as long as I is less than 3. So when it is less than 3, we will get 0, 1, 2. Okay? It's less than 3, keep incrementing. And what are we going to do inside the loop? We actually are going to take one of these lines and we're going to say numbers I. Okay? And I can always say, please enter the ith st slash number. So 4th, 5th. I can make a special case. Please, I'll just keep it simple. Please enter number. I won't try to get the grammar right. But you can see what is going to happen here is I will get number 0, number 1, number 2. You see that? So questions from last week. Last week we did this, right? So now instead of doing it manually, we can actually put that inside the loop. You get this? I will leave this on the screen, so don't be frantic about typing it up. Also, the video will be there. I just want to make sure that you understand this. Is that cool? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So I'm just going to run this. Okay, enter a number 13, 14, 15, but I haven't done anything with the number. I can do something else. Last time we added them, didn't we? Yeah, we did. We did add them. What I can do is I can make a variable called total. Okay, when I start with my total is 0. Okay, is that fine? I just made a variable called total 0. Now when I get the first input, I can say total should now be whatever the previous total was plus the new number. Does that make sense? Does this line make sense? If I was to keep a running total as the numbers are being added, Terence? So as the numbers are being added, I'm saying take total, whatever you had, put the number to it and put it back in total. Do you understand that, Robert? Don't copy and paste. Try to. This is being recorded, so you will have the whole session. So please try to understand this. Just doing this exercise is quite meaningless. I'll run through the code again. So we have a for loop which has a starting point. That's a variable. This is the ending point. The moment the variable, or as long as it is this, as long as this is the case, keep executing this loop. So as long as this is the condition, okay, so that's a starting point, that's a condition, and at the end of every loop you increment this. So if you look at this, it starts at 1, puts out 1 and says I'll be a nice boy today. It increments I plus plus, becomes 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 10? Yeah, it becomes 3. Is 3 less than or equal to 10? Question, Lachlan. This, you want the break here?
Well, yeah, because there's no break between the numbers that it's listing and then space.
You mean you want a space? Yeah, space or a tab. Yeah, just put a space there. I just put NBSP. I just put a forced space. If that's what you want. See that extra space? Yeah, but I'm not pretty fussed about that. I just want a single space. If you want, you can put a dot space, and what the dot space will do is give you a dot and a space. But yeah, so Robert, we have a starting point, ending point, incrementing. Okay, and that's what's happening. But because we can increment now, taking our last week's example, if you wanted 50 inputs, this is how we're going to do it. What we do is we use the same for loop, okay, and instead of saying number 0, number 1, number 2, we're just saying numbers I. So because you're automatically starting with 0 and saying as long as it is less than 3, so it will go to 0, it will go to 1, it will go to 2, and this one which we spent 3 lines is now going to be done in 1 line. Also, if you wanted to enter 50 numbers, in this case, you would have to copy and paste this 50 times. Now, you just go here and change that to 50. I've just added something to it. I've said start with a variable called total. And in this loop, every time the user gives you an input, you take that input and put it to the existing total. So total equals total plus this. Yeah. So every time it's looped, user enters a number, that number is added to total, and we start with a total of 0. So if the user enters 5, total becomes 0 plus 5. Then the next number is 10, so total is 5, right? So 5, the new total becomes 5 plus 10, 15.
Does the array not store the first number that they type in?
Does the array not store the first?
So like if they type in 2 and then once it goes through that, then the total's now 2. Does it not remember that the variable numbers was 2 before, or does it reset itself?
No, the numbers have already been stored in an array. Yes,
Yeah.
the numbers have been stored in an array. You can call out the numbers from an array and keep adding them. I'm just adding them as the user enters them. I didn't understand. Are you suggesting that I pull out the numbers are stored in an array for sure?
So like if they put 2,
Yeah.
that means the variable numbers that the array is 2, right? The stored value is 2, right? The number.
Yes. Yes.
When it goes through the loop again, doesn't it still remember that that number's 2, or does it check again? Does it like reset what the number that they put in?
No. It's not overwriting. What you stored is stored in the array. So let me show you this. Let me get rid of the total. Let me get rid of the total for now. Okay. So let's do 6 numbers. Okay. Let's do a loop of 6 numbers. And what this is doing is numbers are being entered into an array, right? Let me, after they are entered, let me make another loop. Let me make another loop for just removing the numbers from an array. Document.write numbers I plus break. What this loop is going to do is going to read. This loop is going to put in the array, and this loop is going to read out from the array. Okay? Just to show you that it's actually holding the values. And I'm going to just kill this. So I've got my count there. I'm entering a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these last 6 numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the ones I entered. In fact, let me just put a break here so that let me put let all of that go in one line, and when I write it here, I'm just going to write with a break. I'll put that in a p tag. Just so that it doesn't confuse with the previous code. Okay, so that's the numbers, and these are numbers I'm entering. There'll be 51. So starting with 51, these are the numbers. So yeah, the array holds it, no problem. But what I was trying to do here is, I was trying to maintain, and I can total it up here, I can total it at the bottom. But what I was trying to do was, I set up a new variable called total, and as the numbers were being added, I kept on updating my total. So the total variable is only one. That's not an array. The total is only one variable. So the total keeps getting written. In fact, look at this. Let me alert total. Look at this. And let me comment this one out. So I'm entering a number 12. So the total is 12. Okay, it's alerted 12. I put another 12. Total is now 24. I put another 6, total is 30. I put another 5, total is 35. I put another 5, total is 40. I put another 12, total is 52. Okay? The total is now. So this is just an idea which I wanted to give you, that you can get the user to give you some input. The total is now 46 and it keeps entering. It keeps updating the total. It keeps updating the total. 181, 248 and so on. We will eventually use forms as an input, but to understand programming, taking input from a user is fine. Like this is input. When I go and click on applications, this is input. When I open this, if I click on an application, even that is input. If I click on an application here, this is also input. It's just that different styles of input. So we will change our style of input and make it into a form-based input. But I really want you to understand that in this case, we are taking input from the user. In fact, you see this loop which is going up to 6. Okay? Does anybody have a suggestion as to how we can get the user to tell us how many numbers he or she would like to add? So we prompt. Yeah, good. So we take a prompt. We can take a prompt and we'll call it num to add. Okay? Parse int. How many numbers do you want to add? Does that make sense? And we are putting that in num to add. So now we don't have to run the loop 6 times. We have to run it how many times? Sorry? Yeah, and whatever the user has put in, where has it gone and sat? It has gone and sat inside this variable called num to add is holding that information. So instead of 6, we are going to say num to add. Okay? So now the user tells us. So if I now run this program, how many numbers do you want to add? 5. So enter number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the total is now 404. So it's entered 5 numbers and it's given me a total. Okay? So I'm just going to put that part of the code there because if you understand the for loop, and Aiden, you missed the earlier part of the class, but I want to emphasize it again that the assignment we are going to do, we are headed towards our assignment, and I might as well just mention that again. I've put this example up on my website under Web 2. So you see this data, and in your case you might have a list of burgers. So this data is actually coming from an XML file. In your case you'll have burger, /burger, picture, name of burger, type of burger, description of burger, cost of burger, and then you can have your second burger, third burger, fourth burger, your wrap, your food details. And what happens is we have got rows of data in an XML file, right? And we are going to pull it out row by row. So for that we need this for loop. The XML is the database in this case. JavaScript reading XML is one assignment and PHP reading MySQL is another assignment. You can use the same data, okay? But there are two different techniques we want to learn. Let me just kill this. What happened here? I went into some weird mode. You see this for loop here. This for loop goes through the XML file, and we have got a function which goes and gets the tag pick it might get, and then says this is going to be my image. And see this I, because we have got 5 or 6 elements, it will go and pick up the first one, and the first one is always 0. Then the second one will be 1, the third one will be 2.
And then everything in the XML is like, we've got that information right.
Yes, we are reading the tags from the XML, putting them in variables, and what the top function is doing is checking, is there something more, and keeps putting it in variables. And what this for loop is doing is pulling out the variables and is just writing them out. So the for loop that we have created today is our first step towards our dynamic site. The XML file is easy to create, and I will have to explain to you the function, how we load an XML file and how we read the variables. But the for loop is the critical part for it. So for today, the example I'm just going to set it up is this simple example. It's an extension of what we did last week, where we read numbers, and I've just added one more bit to it, that we are totaling it. But you don't have to total it, but as long as you can read the numbers and write them out, try that out in a for loop and see if you can get this example working. I'm just going to kill this. Inserting numbers in an array. So the first part, the first line of code is defining the array. Defining the array that will hold the numbers. And then you have asking the user how many numbers they wish to add.
Well, I don't know who's doing that.
Okay. This one is setting a variable called total, and here is our for loop to keep taking input. I don't want the total to keep appearing, so I'm just going to I'm going to comment this out. Only at the end I'm going to have one line called document.write the total of all the numbers you entered is.
Yeah, because it may be that it's those subjects and I just with those subjects as well.
So I'm going to leave this up there, and I'm going to stop the recording. So I've got comments between my code to explain each line. Output the total.